Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. Kyle Bauer starts us off today with John Larson, who explains what the American Farmland Trust does. And then enjoy this week's Kansas Soybean update. Next, Kyle and Randy Gordon discuss the international marketability of U.S. commodities. And then we learn how K-State researchers added real-life parameters to their beef research. We'll end with the Kansas Farm Bureau update on TTIP negotiations and Plain Talk.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment is brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
Welcome to Farm Factor. Let's join Kyle and John Larson to learn about the American Farmland Trust.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer from Kansas City. I have the opportunity to visit with John Larson. He's with American Farmland Trust. And John, I'm going to have you explain to the listeners, to the viewers, what American Farmland Trust does for agriculture.
Sure, Kyle. Pleasure. American Farmland Trust is a nonprofit that was founded in 1980 to really focus on the trend that was being established of development of our prime farmland, and thinking about it in the context of cities were put in certain places for a reason. There was water availability majority of the time, but then there were other natural resources that really would assist that community in surviving and really kind of functioning. The 80s really saw this kind of unabashed ability of developers to just sprawl out across the country. And so we were losing millions of acres. And so a group of very concerned citizens came together and formed the trust to really help to establish both policies and different targeted approaches to educate both the private landowner, the farmer, but then also the public on why is it important to protect farmland.
The thing is, though, as a retiring farmer, we have that appreciation in land value as part of our retirement. How do you deal with that?
Absolutely. That's a critical part of the puzzle that we have to take into consideration. And so the program that we have and what we promote are, let's give that private landowner the value of what that development difference is between keeping it in farmland. So put an easement on it, purchase those development rights, and pay that private landowner for it. What we have then is we have the ability to keep it in farming and have it available to the next generation so that it provides, again, that value of being productive farmland.
There are a lot of farmland trusts around the country, and so most of that is transferred out to those local rather than you purchasing the easement?
Yeah, when we first started in the 80s, there weren't very many land trusts in existence. And so part of our push was to help to establish. We really truly believe that local decisions are the best ones. I mean, those are the ones that have the staying power because there's a vetting process that goes on in the community, and the value is hopefully in that decision at the local level, one that's going to be of most value to the community. So establishing land trusts, establishing those places where those easements could be held. Early on, we had a lot of easements in our portfolio. We have tried to transfer those. I don't think there were very many land trusts at all in 1980. Today, there's over 3,000 across the country. So there's the ability to have them be the ones to hold those easements at the local level, which is where it should be. We still have a portfolio, and we still will take on an easement and hold it to make sure that we protect that farm ground.
Visiting with John Larson, he's with American Farmland Trust. This is Kyle Bauer reporting from Kansas City.
Folks, stay with us after the break. Next up is this week's Kansas Soybean update.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
Support Kansas agriculture education with an AgriTag. AgriTags are available anytime at your county treasurer. They look great on cars and trucks. For more information, go online to ksagclassroom.org.
Here's another gardening tip with Annette Jackson from Jackson's Greenhouse.
Fresh herbs are healthy and add zest to almost every recipe. The folks at Jackson's grow more than 50 varieties of herbs right here, and many are available year-round. Our staff has hands-on experience and can't wait to assist you with your herb needs. Stop in and see us at Jackson's. We're open 7 days a week.
Our annual June clearance is now bigger than ever. Choose Mix or Match flat specials or buy one, get one half off the second plant.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Jay O'Neill, Senior Ag Economist with the International Grains Program Institute at Kansas State, is joining us. And Jay, the International Trade Commission recently came out with a report, and it looked at the likely effects of increased trade with Pacific nations. So as we look at that, let's look at some of the positives on what we could see with a potential trade deal in the works.
The positives, and I think you have to define them or examine them rather closely, the positives are there, and that TTIP trade agreement is certainly going to be a good thing for ag. Although I think that most of the impact is going to be felt in what we call value-added products, and that means meat and livestock. But that's still a good thing for grain, because the more meat, pork, or beef, or chicken that we can potentially export, that takes more feed here domestically, and that's a good thing.
As this continues to work, are we seeing anything as far as what might not be a positive coming out of this report that would affect agriculture?
I don't see any negatives. Opening up trade, eliminating trade barriers, codifying or at least unifying phytosanitary requirements and eliminating tariffs, those are all good things, even if they don't have an immediate impact like on soybean trade or corn trade. I think we're going to find that most of the countries in Southeast Asia already have a pretty much open door for our soybeans, and many of them have an open door for our corn and products as well. And again, the bigger issue, if we can start to ship more pork meat, I think pork will be a big beneficiary of it, as well as beef. It's good for everybody.
That opens up potentially more markets, too.
It opens up a few more markets, and I think the other thing that a lot of people have glossed over, or at least not recognized, is the beauty, so to speak, of the TTIP agreements that we're entering into. These type of single or small multi-company agreements is that those agreements, once they're agreed upon among whether it's one or whether it's 5 or 6 or 7 countries, it's easier to hammer out those agreements with a small number of countries. So with these smaller agreements, one of the terms of these agreements is once they are agreed upon among these members, any other members, whether that is China or Taiwan or other people around the world, who say, I want to now at a later date come back and join that agreement, they have to agree upon the terms and conditions that have already been established without modification. And that makes it a lot easier once you try to expand these agreements, even beyond their initial impact and their initial partner countries.
Jay O'Neill, Senior Ag Economist with the International Grains Program Institute at Kansas State, is joining us on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Soybean Update. After the break, we'll join Kyle and Randy Gordon, president of the National Feed and Grain Association.
I will take action against herbicide-resistant weeds. I will know my weeds, and I will stop them before they go to seed. I will do whatever it takes to give my crops the upper hand, and I will use multiple herbicide sites of action because every action counts. I will take action, this time for all time.
Ag AM in Kansas, brought to you in part by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Thanks for staying with us. Now Kyle and Randy discuss issues surrounding the international marketability of U.S. commodities.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer from Kansas City. I have the opportunity to visit with Randy Gordon. He's with the National Feed and Grain Association. Let's start, Randy, with what does the National Feed and Grain Association do?
Okay, well, Kyle, our members are grain elevators and feed mills and grain processors and exporters. So we try to represent their interests on trade and ag policy and futures market related issues, food safety, biotech, and a number of other areas. But our members are those who are taking the product from farmers and trying to merchandise those into products that are used around the world.
You know, you bring up a good verbiage there is we haul our grain to the elevators and we expect them to sell it, but we have some responsibility as producers when we deliver that to that elevator.
Well, and that's a big issue for us right now is in terms of the marketability of those products. Obviously, the American farmer is tremendously productive and bountiful and efficient and cost-effective in what they do. But in the area of biotechnology in particular, one of the concerns we have is that some new traits are being introduced into the marketplace and commercialized by technology owners that may or may not be approved in some foreign markets. So that's a big consideration for us in terms of whether those commodities can have a market going forward. So we think it is really important as we get through these kinds of situations where there may be a trait that needs to be channeled or stewarded in a particular way, that the technology owner step up and bear responsibility there, but also that farmers are aware from conversations with their local elevators as to whether there's a good market for those kind of commodities.
You use the word channel, and it's probably a great visual because of the fact that the elevator can do just fine with finding a home for those things. They just need to know ahead of time what they're dealing with so they put them in the right channel.
That's right, and a lot of our members have a very strong feed market or other kinds of outlets where they can, if they know what the trait is, get it to the right buyer. But the worst case scenario for us is obviously if there is an unapproved trait and that company is involved heavily in an export market where that trait may not be approved, of having that contaminate, if I can put quotes around that word, an entire bin, and having that bin then basically be devalued and be available only for instance, a feed market going forward. So it is a big issue that there needs to be that kind of two-way communication with growers throughout the marketing season.
Well, and we need everyone to understand there's nothing wrong with the product. It's just that if it isn't approved in an export market, then it can't be sold there. And so as long as it's sold domestically, consumed domestically, we're fine. But one thing we don't think about is when it goes to an ethanol plant, those DDGs have to be consumed in this country as well.
Well, that's right. There have been some rejected shipments of DDGs because they contained a trait that wasn't approved yet in a foreign government or by a foreign government. So, yeah, it's important from that sector as well. Every one of these products needs to find an approved buyer that can utilize those products without trade disruptions. And frankly, you know, our situation involving a couple of traits a couple of years ago where China stopped shipments of U.S. corn cost the industry and farmers upwards of $4 billion over the course of a couple of years. So it's very meaningful in terms of what that economic impact is.
We're visiting with Randy Gordon. Randy is with the U.S. Grain and Feed Dealers Association. This is Kyle Bauer reporting.
After this word from our sponsors, we'll learn what happens when real-life parameters are added to beef research.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agaminkansas.com. This segment brought to you by Heinen Brothers Ag, farmers helping farmers by offering quality aerial and ground application. fertilizer, ag chemicals, and anhydrous ammonia. Call today to protect your crop yield.
Welcome back to Farm Factor. Now let's see how K-State researchers added real-life eating experiences to their beef research.
What happens when you add real-life parameters to beef research? Meat scientist Travis O'Quinn wanted to find out.
We do a lot of research when it comes to beef eating quality, and so in all those tests, we actually let the consumers consume that product blind, meaning we don't give them any information about the product before they try it other than it's beef steaks. And so we've done a lot of studies like that. But in real world settings, consumers know a lot about the product before they ever take their first bite. They know some things about the color and appearance if they purchase it at retail. They know about the price. They know about the brands of the products they purchase. And so all those things actually do go into influencing the consumer's overall perception.
His team tested product with taste panels twice. First blind, then identified. Initial results matched what other studies had reported.
As quality grade and marbling level increased from our select to prime, we saw increases for tenderness, juiciness, flavor, and overall liking for each of those products. We also saw the percentage of those samples that were rated acceptable increase over the same range. And so that was very repeatable. We're very happy to see that as marbling increased, we also saw the concurrent increases in all the eating characteristics.
Then they revealed information about the products. The USDA Prime, Choice, and Select grade cuts, or those carrying the Certified Angus Beef brand or a generic Angus label.
When we disclosed to the consumers what they were eating, we saw a very large brand lift associated with Certified Angus Beef when it came to flavor perception and overall eating satisfaction.
When panelists knew they were eating the brand, flavor rankings increased 14%, and overall liking went up by 10%. Flavor is becoming an increasingly important factor for beef eaters.
We've, as an industry, made strides to improve the tenderness of the U.S. beef supply. The last meat tenderness audit data showed that about 98% of beef sold at retail actually meets consumer expectations for tenderness. So now consumers view tenderness acceptability as a given, and so they are looking at flavor as the next challenge that they see when it comes to beef eating quality.
Stay with us after the break for this week's Kansas Farm Bureau update on TTIP negotiations.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
I'm a patient of Kansas Regenerative Medicine in Manhattan. I had stem cell therapy in my hips and my left knee. My wife and I both are patients. We went down there the same day in November. Since then, my hips are feeling a lot better. I can work now most of the day if I want to. And before, if I worked in the morning, I was done in the afternoon, or if I worked in the afternoon, I was sure enough done for the rest of the day.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
We're back. Thanks for staying with us. Now enjoy this week's Kansas Farm Bureau update.
Negotiations on the trade agreement between the European Union and the United States will continue in July. The American Farm Bureau's trade specialist, Dave Salmonson, says many agriculture issues must be resolved to complete the deal. Those include sanitary barriers and standards by the EU, eliminating tariffs for U.S. products, and geographic indicators.
These are the kind of things that are still under contention and are looming as continuing barriers to moving ahead on the ag section. So these have been issues that have been going on, but flared up even more recently.
Salmonson says the talks next month will likely focus on eliminating tariffs, as the EU currently levies higher tariffs than the United States.
These are classic issues to talk about in trade, and I think there's a desire to try to get agreement on something. Removing tariffs is important, always, and still important in agriculture and our trade with the European Union.
He warns political issues could impact the negotiations moving forward, including the vote in Britain to consider leaving the EU and the U.S. presidential election.
The referendum in Britain is on June 23rd, and depending on the outcome, that could lead to a lot of uncertainty over the future of the European Union. And, of course, some of the positions on trade issues from some of the presidential candidates leads to uncertainty in the European Union side about how this TTIP deal will progress in the future after the end of the Obama administration.
Michael Clements, Washington.
Come back after this message from our sponsors for this week's Plain Talk with Kyle Bauer and Dwayne Taves.
Biodiesel made from sustainable resources is diversifying our fuel supply. This year, biodiesel will displace over 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. It's making our economy stronger and our communities healthier. It's working here and across America. Get biodiesel going in your community. Visit americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor. Today on Plain Talk, Kyle and Dwayne discuss the Nike swoosh.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer with Plain Talk with Dwayne Taves. The Nike swoosh. Swoosh. Swoosh? Swoosh.
It's swoosh.
Swoosh. Okay, that mark on the side looks like a check mark.
Close, yes.
Yeah, close.
A rounded check mark.
Uh-huh.
It's like a seal of approval.
It's
check mark right there.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, it was done by a lady in Seattle when she was an art student.
Okay.
And she wanted to take an art class, and the guys were starting the Nike company, and they both worked for Oregon State University.
Oh.
And they needed some sort of a trademark on the side of their shoe, and it couldn't have 3 marks because 3 marks was Adidas.
Right.
Okay. So they couldn't do that. So they said, "Come up with some ideas. We'll pay you $2 an hour." She said, "Great. I really like to get up to $35 though, so I could take this art class." They said, "Good, you got a deal." And so sure enough, she came up with 3 different ones. They said, "Well, I kind of don't really like this one, but it'll do for now, the swoosh." And they paid her $35. And
worth a lot more than that now.
Yeah, well, the brand today is worth about $20 billion. Now that isn't just for that swoosh.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, they did pretty well with it. But in 1983, when they went public,
yes,
they called her back for her own little party.
Oh.
To Nike because she had done that, and she had long since graduated, and she worked for the company up through 76. After she graduated, they hired her, worked for the company through 76. Let me see. She did it in 71. Okay, so, and she worked for the company through 76, went on her own project. In 83, they went public. They invited her back for her own little party, had cake. I don't actually made that part up. I really don't know if they had cake or not. But they gave her a diamond ring, gold with the swoosh on it, with a diamond in it. And they gave her 500 shares of Nike.
That's probably worth $1 or $2.
Well, in those days, it was worth $150. Today, it's worth just short of $1 million.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next week on Farm Factor. We're here every Tuesday on Ag AM in Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agamInKansas.com.